I'm Charlie. I'm from Global Game Jam, and we have a short video because unfortunately, our executive director, Tim Collins, is in Seattle, which means it is something like 1 or 2 a.m. for him, so he's not able to join.
Hello, and welcome to Games Gathering. I'm Tim Collins, Executive Director of Global Game Jam. For a little bit about me, I've been in the industry since 2010. I've shipped multiple titles, shipped multiple VR headsets while working at Oculus, and have been a part of GGJ, Seattle Indies, and the IGDA for most of the last decade. I also co-host an annual roundtable at GDC for indie community organizers and have run more game jams than I can remember at this point. Global Game Jam is a nonprofit organization that runs the world's largest annual game jam around the end of January. In 2023, we had 40,000 participants at 800 sites in 108 countries around the world. They created 7,600 games in around 48 hours around the theme of roots. This includes 11 sites in Ukraine, where 385 brave Ukrainian developers, undaunted by the invasion of your beautiful country, made 83 games. I'm sure many of you who are here have heard of.
Sorry, it's a video.
We have restarted because I have SMS from team lead because we need. I don't know why.
I can carry on playing the video because Tim pre-recorded.
Okay, let's start it. Just.
Do you want me to start from the beginning?
Part in Global Game Jam at some point, but if not, you can find out more about us at Global Game Jam.
Hi, and we started now. We have two speakers, Charlie and Tim. Let's start it.
Hi, so I'm Charlie, and unfortunately, due to the time difference, Tim, the executive director of Global Game Jam, is in Seattle, which means that it is about 1 or 2 a.m. for him, so he's not able to do the talk, but he has pre-recorded for us. So we'd like to go ahead and play Tim's introduction, and then I'll talk to you, everyone. It's just a way to start.
Yes, I don't see Tim.
He's just a way to come up. There's a little bit of a pause. There we go.
Hello, and welcome to Games Gathering. I'm Tim Collins, Executive Director of Global Game Jam. For a little bit about me, I've been in the industry since 2010. I've shipped multiple titles, shipped multiple VR headsets while working at Oculus, and have been a part of GGJ, Seattle Indies, and the IGDA for most of the last decade. I also co-host an annual roundtable at GDC for indie community organizers and have run more game jams than I can remember at this point. Global Game Jam is a nonprofit organization that runs the world's largest annual game jam around the end of January. In 2023, we had 40,000 participants at 800 sites in 108 countries around the world. They created 7,600 games in around 48 hours around the theme of roots. This includes 11 sites in Ukraine, where 385 brave Ukrainian developers, undaunted by the invasion of your beautiful country, made 83 games. I'm sure many of you who are here have heard of or taken part in Global Game Jam at some point, but if not, you can find out more about us at globalgamejam.org. What is a game jam, maybe you're asking yourself? If you're not familiar, it's a 48-hour usually event. Sometimes it's an online event, sometimes it's in person, where people try to get together and make a video game in a weekend or over the course of weeks if it's a virtual event. But it's usually a lot of fun, a lot of creativity. They're typically creating a prototype of a game, a very, very small version with a couple of mechanics, and it's usually around a theme or a technology, or the theme is usually a creative prompt that gives people an idea of what they should be making their game about. Like I said, our theme for GGJ 2023 was Roots. There's many other game jams you can look on the internet and find and join if you're interested. At a game jam, you will spend a good chunk of a weekend or over a few weeks trying to make a game that, for the most part, won't even work the way that you had hoped and dreamed it would at the start. And honestly, that's a little weird, but game jams are supposed to be a little weird, and that's cool. Jams are also a very scaled down version of what making a commercial game is really like. The thing I love most about game jams is that they can be anything you want them to be. You can push yourself harder than you ever have to make the best game possible in the short time you have, or you can make it a chill experience and make something small but fun and polished. It's totally up to you and your team. At a jam, you can spend the time learning a new skill, trying out new technology, or using the time and creative energy from the jam to push through something you've been stuck on with an existing project. The possibilities are endless and only limited by the time you have and your creativity. But the main point of a game jam is to create a game, but you also create new friendships, new memories, and probably encounter a bit of sleep deprivation along the way as well. At the start of every game jam, I like to remind people to get some rest, eat well, and stay hydrated. And I hope you're going to do that this week while you're enjoying Games Gathering. And any game jammer should definitely do all of those things, but let's be real, at most game jams, you're probably going to stay up too late, eat a lot of pizza and sugary snacks, and chug your favorite caffeinated beverage so you can fix that one annoying bug you're dealing with, or just get that cool feature into the game that you thought of at the last minute. You'll spend the first few hours at the jam coming up with an amazing game idea full of features, loads of levels, characters with complex backstories, the greatest graphics, a soaring soundtrack, and then you're going to just scrap it all of it to get a janky pixelated dog that also might be a horse, but was supposed to be a knight fighting an alligator that looks like a hippo, but was supposed to be a dragon. It won't be the best game ever, but it will be the best game you could have made during the game jam. You'll be sad for what it might have been, but at the same time, you'll be happy when you made something, and you will remember all the creative ideas you came up with during the jam. A game jam isn't about what you make, it is about what you make of it. Trying new things, making mistakes, breaking your build, struggling with source control. The internet's always going to go out in the last half hour before the submission deadline, and you write a bunch of code that you'll never want to look at it again, and optimize nothing. It's all just part of the game jam experience. And when it's over, you get some real food and rest. You'll look back and laugh about everything that went haywire and remember the fun times you had, either on your own or with your team. And we encourage everybody who participates to not only embrace their failures and learn from them, but to remember to celebrate their successes too. Success at a game jam can come in many forms. Maybe you make an award-winning game, solve a major technical issue for someone, teach someone a new skill, learn a new skill yourself, or make some new friends. It all counts, and it's all great. Speaking of successes, there are some great success stories that have come out of game jams. They are amazing and inspiring tales of an idea that came together over a weekend and were the foundation for great commercial success, either for a game itself that was made at the jam or a game studio based of people who found each other at the jam and decided they liked working together and wanted to turn it into a professional thing. Games like Celeste and Surgeon Simulator and Home Improvisation all got their start at game jams. Global Game Jam also hosts jams based around cultural heritage preservation and social issues that are important to us. And those always bring fresh ideas and perspectives to these subjects that people in other parts of the world would not have been exposed to otherwise. And the game developer mind tends to look at problems in a different way than a lot of people that are currently tackling these issues, either on the scientific or government level. So they're always very interested to find what people in our community and what game developers can think of to work on those issues and come up with solutions for them. You'll learn a lot more about these from Charlie in just a bit. It is possible to have a hugely successful game come from a game jam, but in truth, it is very unlikely that a jam game is going to be the best work of anyone's career. But it might open a pathway to future work that jammers will look back on and be grateful for. Game jams are also a great way to make new friends and connect with a community of people who are all coming together for the jam. artists, programmers, testers, sound designers, composers, even producers, they all have a role to play in a game jam. And understanding how all of those different disciplines work together is key to making a game jam work, and will be a huge benefit in people's future game making endeavors, whatever those may be. So I encourage you to check out a jam sometime, and you'll have a chance to work with and learn from a lot of people that work in other areas that maybe you're not as familiar with. And that's going to be key in your career for sure. I hear countless stories from people all over the world of how they were struggling to find a way into the games industry. And then a friend brought them to a jam or told them about one, and they got up the courage to go to their first jam, and they got a chance to work with some amazing people who later helped them get a job, or they all formed a studio together, like I mentioned before, is a thing that happens quite often and comes out of game jams. And but my favorite stories are of the people who come to the game jams time after time. Their games get better, they get more involved with the whole process, they become team leaders at the jams, and eventually they end up getting work in the industry, which is one of the many things that we're trying to help people with when we run these events in your part of the world. And I can't guarantee this will happen for everyone that comes to a GDJ event, but being there is an opportunity for it to happen. And I encourage people to take advantage of the opportunity and be open to the possibilities that are created just by being there. And think about that this week as well. And then while you're participating in games gathering, just be open to whatever possibilities might come your way just by being there and attending. If you do decide to participate in one of our jams, then good luck and make games, or don't. Just have fun and make it what you want. Enjoy the rest of games gathering. I do really wish I could be there in person with all of you, and hopefully the invaders will be driven out soon from your country and we can all get together again very soon. Thanks to the amazing organizers for putting this event together, and thanks to all of you for taking the time to be here and listen to our talk. And I'll now hand things over to Charly Harbord, who is the Global Game Jam Director of Partnerships.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, that was our introduction from Tim, the glorious leader, the Executive Director of Global Game Jam. And now I would like to go through my slides and give you a wee talk about the topic of why game jams.
Okay, I don't see where that.
You should see, it's just slide 1. You should be able to see. Move that one.
Maybe.
This one.
No.
And GG Kyiv. So whilst we're working on this, it's never an online conference if there aren't some kind of technical problems, and this is part of the nature of games, I think. And some of you may have noticed my cat in the background. Obviously, not the first cat that will be seen, or the last cat that will be seen this whole conference.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see my slides at the bottom there?
I know. No.
All right, let me add them again.
Okay, maybe.
There you go. That's them at the bottom again. There we go. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so as Tim said, I'm Charly Harbord. I'm Director of Partnerships for Global Game Jam. I'm actually just coming up to my first anniversary at my first year at Global Game Jam, and it's been a wild ride so far. Bit of background, my first degree is in Mandarin and Chinese culture. I have a master's in international education and almost finished a PhD in the use of role-playing games to preserve indigenous languages, cultures, and traditions. So cultural heritage is something that's very important to me. And I work in the space of my own culture as well, which is Scottish. But also working with other cultures around the world and indigenous cultures. But within industry, I've been in industry for just around 20 years now, as I started doing game localization way back in the day, doing Chinese to English and English to Chinese. I've had a few games shipped or been part of a few games that have shipped as well. So that's a wee introduction to myself. And obviously, as you can tell from the accent, I'm based in Scotland. So Tim gave you a brief overview of Global Game Jam, but what is Global Game Jam? So we are the world's largest game creation event. So this year, the end of January this year, we had over 40,000 participants in 800 locations, 108 countries, and they made over 7,600 games. And out of that, a significant portion came from Ukraine. And the work that went into creating the Ukraine portion of the Game Jam was immense. We have to say thank you to Alexei and to all of our site organizers, regional organizers within that area, where we worked so hard, or they worked so hard to keep the sites hidden, keep everyone safe. It was a massive task, and it was extremely, extremely successful. And we're so, so very proud of all of the people that took part, all of the amazing games that came out, and all of our organizers. If we look at,
thank you so much for this treatment.
It means so much to us, and to be able to do it in a safe way is so important. And the fact that, yes, there's a war going on, but sometimes you need some distraction. Sometimes you need to be able to have a normality, and a game jam, having fun with your friends, creating with your friends is something really important to people. And if at any point anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and I will stop and answer them. But yeah, so let's look at who jams. So this is the sad fact. 73% are male, 21% are non-binary, 21% are female, 4% non-binary, and 2% prefer not to say. These statistics change, and we want to encourage more females, more non-binary to take part. In terms of their work, so we've got hobbyists, 15% students. We also have companies, whether that's game companies or other kind of companies, taking part in jams. The most popular engine that's used is Unity, followed by Unreal, Godot, Net, GameMaker, and then others. So you can make a game using any engine you want. It doesn't matter. Our average age is about 26, and our organizer average age is about 34. And our organizers are typically people who've come up from being a jammer to a site organizer, to a regional organizer. They keep coming back. And the skill levels is actually quite interesting. So we've got predominantly, most people are beginners, but we do have professionals, and we do have a significant portion of people who've already shipped games. So people who are working in industry, who have already created games, but maybe want a break from the work that they're doing, or just want to get together with their friends and hang out and have a good time. So why GGJ? 88% are satisfied with experience, 56% were first time, 43% were site with accessibility options. We want to be as inclusive as possible for everyone to be able to join us. 93% completed a game, which is very good statistics. 87% learned or improved on a new skill. And 82% said that they would participate in Global Game Jam again. And we often have people that come back and again and again and again. And here's a lovely quote. So my experience was golden. I met some like-minded people who didn't look down on me for being inexperienced. Instead, they pushed me out of my shell and helped me have fun. And ultimately, that is our goal. But why game jam? So let's look at a game jam in general. So the characteristics. So it's disciplinary. So you're talking art, coding, design, narrative, so many different skills. There's a time constraint. And as Tim said, usually it's 48 hours. However, we never encourage anyone to stay up for 48 hours to make a game. The jam, actually, our main jam, is held over 6 days, and it's any 48 hours within those 6 days. We're not saying do not sleep for 2 days and make a game. There's a theme constraint. So you're given a theme and you have to make a game related to that. Location constraint. So sometimes they're online, or if they're on site, that's where you need to be. There's the game context, and there's the jam environment. And this is part of the reason why we were so proud of our friends in Ukraine who took part in the jam, because that jam environment is an environment of fun, of being social, of forgetting about what's happening in the outside world. You're just together to have fun and make games. And that's something that's really important. What are the benefits of jams? Well, social capacity building. Many of us within industry have not the best social skills per se. Myself personally, I find being around new people very, very difficult. And so working within that jam space, you build up this capacity to be able to interact with people. Networking is really important. It can help build your professional network, your professional reputation, making new friends, and also leadership and motivation. Within a jam, you may find yourself in a leadership role that you would never have put yourself forward for, but you naturally fall into it, or someone has suggested that you go into this role. And these are skills that will help you going forwards. Soft skills. Soft skills are just as important as qualifications. So your intellectual capacity building. So how to think on a higher level, how to be able to express that to others, how to be able to level everyone's different intellectual abilities, and so that everyone can understand and take part in the conversation. Career decision making. So we've got peers, counselors, teachers, and parents. And conceptual learning, like how to take the idea that you have and put it into real terms. These are all really important skills that will help in any career, whether it's games, teaching, acting, whatever you want to do. And obviously there's learned skills. So how to express yourself in a way that doesn't offend people, how to express yourself in a way that is completely understandable, and so people can get your meaning very clearly. Connecting with people, how to find that common ground when you're talking to someone. And then questioning, how to question things in a way that is constructive. But all of these have tangible outcomes. And within a game jam, the tangible outcome obviously is a game, and friendship and networking and all of the other fun things. And then communication and interaction. So communication with the written and verbal communication, working together as a team, working in an interdisciplinary team. So you may be working with people that are from a completely different academic or knowledge background from yourself, and you can learn from each other. You learn to respect each other, to respect each other's ideas and how to communicate that. Again, you also have independent working and self-organization. Some of us are better at self-organization and some of us are not so good at that kind of thing. And then group coordination, so how to work within a team, how to keep your team running smoothly. So these are the benefits of a game jam. And additionally, how to think in a diverse context, how to use problem-based thinking and creative problem solving. Because when you're making a game, particularly in a game jam that's a shortened experience, you're going to end up with a lot of problems. A bit of code doesn't work. There's a bug, you can't work it out. The artist can't do what you need them to do. There's so many different things, and you have to do a workaround. But the whole industry is based on workaround. We never stop. We find a different way around to go about it. And it's a good basis to create games that explore and celebrate different cultures and traditions, as well as tackling social issues in a manageable way. And this is the theme of this talk. So why jams for real issues? So let me make this point very clear, and this is a very, very important point. We are not intending in any way to gamify trauma. This is lived experience. We're sharing these lived experiences through games, whether that be cultural heritage, whether that be mental health, whether that is, for example, the issues and the war in Ukraine. We're not going to make light of that. We're going to make it so that people can walk in your shoes, so that people can experience what you're going through, whatever the theme of the jam is. And this will be in an accessible way so that it's not hard for someone to understand where your theme is coming from. It's authentic because it's your lived experience that you are sharing with the world. It's engaging because people are pulled into a game. People want to play it. They want to experience it. But most importantly, it's active. It's not passive. So it's not the same as having someone talk at you like I'm doing today. You're actually experiencing it through that game experience. So it's a really good space for using games to share these experiences and these. It's a good example of this kind of thing. And this isn't a game jam game. This is a game that exactly exemplifies what I'm talking about, is this War of Mine by the Iranian studio. It's not about a war. It's about the experience of living in a war. And through the game, you almost experience, obviously in a very sanitized and safe way, the kind of decisions that people have to make. And this is why we're talking about not gamifying trauma, but highlighting and sharing experiences through that.
I see many people creating games and Ukrainian developers where narrated the scene is war or maybe something else.
Mm-hmm. And to not take away from that, the war is something that's very prevalent, and I'm trying to find the right words to explain it. But some good things have come out of it, not because of the war. The war is terrible, and we do not approve at all. But the friendship connections that have been made, the strength of the Ukrainian people, these are good things. I remember going to Bratislava last year and seeing all the Ukrainian people that came to that conference singing in the streets, just a joy of life. And these are wonderful things. And I have made many, many good friends from Ukraine from that experience. So there are small slivers of hope that bring joy from this horrible, horrible situation. But yeah, it's words just lose me at that point for this, how to express that. But we're going to look at a few of the sort of themed jams where we're looking at social benefits, social issues. The first was the Cultural Heritage Game Jam that we ran back in 2021. And this was based on anti-looting, anti-trafficking of cultural antiquities. So it was in partnership with the Cultural Antiquities Task Force, which is part of the US State Department. We hosted a very unique jam to engage and challenge our community to use their powerful skills to create games that celebrated diverse cultural art, artifacts, traditions, and places, helped disrupt cultural heritage, looting, theft, trafficking, and destruction, reinforced the importance of protecting and preserving cultural heritage, and educated about the effects of climate change on cultural heritage. This was a really good way for people from all over the world to share their amazing cultures, their indigenous cultures, the things that we don't really know about different cultures. We see the holiday shows, or we've been on holiday, but we've not necessarily lived in the shoes of the people that live there. And it was a really beautiful event. And the winner actually was based on an indigenous language from Peru, and sort of the Inca and Aztec background. And it really helped highlight this sort of thing that we've never have really seen before. Another jam that we did in the same theme is the Women Life Freedom Game Jam, which was based on Iran. The game jam was run in order to raise more awareness for what happens in Iran and women's rights in general. The chant was a good theme for a game jam, and what better way to raise awareness in game devs? And the theme of the game jam was Women, Life, Freedom, which is the chant that the protesters used during the situation in Iran. Through this jam, predominantly the games that were submitted by women. They explored all kinds of different things about what it's like to be a woman in Iran, whether it's having to wear a hijab or not being able to wear a hijab, or the kind of different schooling that you get compared to a man, the sort of pressures that are put on you. And again, this is something that as an outsider, we maybe don't know about because we don't hear a lot of this stuff in the news for reasons of news being blocked. And so this was a really enlightening and for us very important jam because it gave a voice to people who up to that point maybe didn't have a voice. We also ran the May Day Mental Health Game Jam, and this was back in 2022. And the theme was to create and submit a game that educates, addresses, and celebrates mental health. It's okay to say you're not okay. The answer to how are you shouldn't always be I'm good, thanks, or fine. You should be able to say I'm not good. You should be able to own that and also be comfortable with the fact that we're not happy all the time. So it demonstrates how video game themes and mechanics can be utilized as treatment mechanics. It helped dispel misconceptions and social stigma related to openly discussing and addressing mental health issues. And this was the main important theme. I know through my friends in Ukraine, they have had this social stigma of always saying, I'm good, I'm good. It's very difficult to be good when there's a war going on in your country. It is okay to say, I'm having problems, I can't sleep, I'm anxious. These should be talked about. We understand, and we should be able to talk openly about this. But we need to make it fun, maximize entertainment to make your game engaging and playable. Make your game enjoyable, make it accessible so that people feel more comfortable or can follow your journey through mental health. And it also helped to build a community that works to connect and support those suffering from stress, anxiety, and depression. Additionally, obviously, we've all been through COVID and lockdown, that sort of sense of isolation. And so building connection in these difficult times is something that's very, very important. So Kilted Otter, this is a Scottish jam that I created many years ago now. So Kilted Otter was, I'm from Scotland, and in Scotland we have 3 languages, well, 4 if you count English. We have Scots, which is Old Lang Syne, that song you sing at New Year's Eve is written in Scots. We have Doric, which is the language I speak, which is from northeast of Scotland. And then there's Scots Gaelic. Due to history, Scots Gaelic was pretty much wiped out. If you spoke it, there would be death and all kinds of horrible things. So now it got to the stage where within about 7 years, if we don't work, Scots Gaelic will be gone. And with that goes a little bit of our history. So I wanted to create something that celebrated my culture and shared my culture and helped in some way to preserve it. So the impact of this Scots Gaelic Game Jam was collaboration. So this was happened during lockdown as well, so that people that were isolated were getting together online to make games. It was a preservation of language and cultural stories. So if you think about your grandmother's recipe, often for your favorite soup, often it's not written down. And when people pass, these little bits of our culture and our heritage sadly pass with them. So it's a way to preserve these kind of things. Connection during difficult times. Obviously, lockdown was difficult for everyone. Skill learning. This project ran through schools so that children were able to learn game design. They were able to learn game engines. And it created a model for further language and cultural games practice. So that's Kilted Otter.
Very nice illustration. I read more about Scottish history, and how do you think it's important? And do you have any projects with games with the culture of Scotland?
Yes. So the first year we ran Kilted Otter, it ran through the university that I worked at, and now we are a registered charity in Scotland. So we run every year. The jam was also used by University of Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, and so they actually ran the Kilted Otter in America, and it's something that, as a Scot, is very important to me. I advocate for any. There's a phrase, nothing about us without us, which means don't make a game about my people without having any of my people involved, whether that's Ukrainian, Scottish, First Nations. Always involve the people that the game or anything is based around. Have them involved at every step of the way. And so the Kilted Otter is very much based in Scotland, and we have Scottish people, we have Scots Gaelic, actors, singers, musicians. And it's a way of celebrating our culture. And it's a model that if anyone from anywhere wants to use the model for a cultural heritage jam like this, feel free. I'm happy to share and give you the model to run, for example, in Ukraine and celebrate Ukraine culture, Ukraine artists, Ukraine singers, musicians. It's about celebrating our culture and sharing it with everyone else.
Yes, it's important for a generation and for us, for
It
next
absolutely
generation.
is. Yeah, and celebrating Ukraine language. It needs to be done. So I'm just going to play a short video just to give you a brief highlight of the Cultural Heritage Game Jam. Oh, no, because it's not going to play. I'm not going to show you a short video because it won't play. But hang on. I have it here. All right, let me add this one. All right. Okay, I'm just going to share this screen. Okay, and I will play this. And so just a brief highlight of our Cultural Heritage Jam. Can you add the other one in the document?
And friends, as a reminder, you can ask our speaker or maybe writing in chat, and I in the end of stream I ask many if you have questions.
Any questions at all are absolutely acceptable. So are you able to share the other screen I just put up?
Yes, I see.
This is a
another
perfect.
maybe that.
Yeah, so this is a short video that highlights our cultural heritage.
Oh, yes. When this game created, I mean that year, maybe that's 2006, no? Many traveling. I see.
Okay, so if we can put the slides back up, right? Yeah, so that gave you a really nice overview of some of the amazing games that came through on our Cultural Heritage Jam. And as you saw, one was from Ukraine as well. They're all available to be played. So if anyone wants a link to any of them, just let us know. So these are some of the references. And I just wanted to end on one note. Obviously, sorry, I also have a cold, so I'm not crying. I have a cold. Tim and I can't be there in Kyiv at the moment, which is heartbreaking. But next year, we're planning, and I'm definitely planning. So there's a lot of people I need to come to Kyiv and visit. But we're hoping desperately that next year everything is good, you guys are free, and that we can come back. So yeah, Slava Ukraini, Hiram Slava.
Heroin Slava. Thank you for sample. It's very nice. I don't see any question. Maybe I create the question. What is your first project in game dev? Was
So my first journey into game dev was as a localization expert in China, where I worked on localizing from English to Chinese or Chinese to English, massively multiplayer online games. I wouldn't necessarily play them myself, but it was not as much fun as you would think. Basically, just Excel sheets of text and text and text and text, and you would stay up all night just translating and then putting it into usable language. But it gave me a really nice insight into sort of the narrative background of games and the processes of a game studio. Like, where does localization come in? From that, and I've been doing that for many, many years, like around 20. I also work as a cultural sensitivity expert. So I work with studios during the design process to look at assets, look at narrative, to look at characters, to double check that they are actually authentic and sovereign. So if a character is from Ukraine, for example, they're creating a character from Ukraine and their backstory, I'd be the person that comes in and then asks Ukrainian people to check, is this authentic? Is this accurate? Is this in any way offensive? Does this make sense to you? What else can we add into this to make it more authentic, whether that's the style of clothing or a pattern of speech or something about the backstory? So I still do that, and I love that work because you can see studios that appreciate authentic representation and how they go about including that within their games.
it was difficult but interesting. Yes.
Mhm. Very. You end up in some very bizarre conversations because someone thinks that, for example, Scotland, that the character should be wearing a kilt, which is the man's skirt that we wear that men wear in Scotland. And they want to design a character that wears a kilt. It's like, we don't wear them every day. This isn't normal for us. It's a special occasion. And so having that conversation and tailoring people's expectations, I think, and part of why we're talking about game jams for this kind of outreach or education is because you can make a game about your culture, you can make a game about your experiences that really show who you are, and you can share that in a way that, again, makes it accessible. A lot of kids would not want to spend a weekend reading a history book. It's not necessarily interesting to them, but they would spend a weekend playing Assassin's Creed and learning history by playing a game. And that's where we have this really nice, almost cheeky, sneaky way of educating people through games.
Yes, well, I mean, I know that when I gaming in another games, it's like I live in that game and learn, and very interesting history. And maybe after game, I go in Google or library and listening and reading about this culture or fantasy world.
Exactly, and that's part of it, because you sparked an interest. And so all of these game jams that I've highlighted today, and all of the game jams that we do, in particular, will highlight a social aspect or a theme or a culture that will spark an interest in that, and people generally will go off and learn more, or or sparks an interest for game design. So people then push themselves harder to learn more about game design, come back next year and make more games. It's a really nice way to get people to share experiences, to gain experience, to gain knowledge in a way that doesn't feel like you're actually learning, when really you're learning. For the Kilted Otter, for example, out of 173 participants, over 50% were female. And also, from our feedback, something like 90% then went on to learn more Scots Gaelic, and about 95% went on to learn more about game design. For us, or for me, working in games and being Scottish, this is a win-win, because every one person that speaks our language or learns our language is one more person away from it disappearing. And that's really important. And that's why we want to be able to use games to create these worlds and environments where things are being preserved, whether that's monuments that, for example, in Ukraine, with a war going on, if something's bombed and it disappears, you can have it preserved and you can rebuild it, obviously, in the real world. But you're able to share what somewhere looked like in the past, or as it should look like.
Yes, and I know very most culture have songs, and for next generation, and people remember that. I don't know, like it said, because no, I just remember that culture safe in song.
Absolutely. And we learn a lot of our culture and our history through songs. Not all songs are written down. Some are just passed on by singing and singing. But when the last singer dies, that song dies. And so this is somewhere where we can use games to preserve that. You can make a game that tells the story of a song, that preserves it in a way that is interactive, that more people will engage with it. We will play a game where we don't understand the language. A good example of that is Sims. No one speaks Simlish. It's a made up language, but we will happily play that game. We don't need to understand what's being said. And so we can play games in any language. The gameplay is what we're there for. The rest of it we pick up along the way. My own son learned Japanese because I bought him a 3DS that was localized to Japan. And so in order to be able to play it, he had to play in Japanese, and he picked it up just because he wanted to play the game. If I'd said to him,
He liked Japanese culture, language, or
um,
only just game.
not particular. I mean, he had, he likes anime, he likes cartoons, he likes games, but he never had any particular interest in learning Japanese. But in order to play the games, he needed to understand Japanese, and it's just something that slowly crept in, so he could play, and that was really nice as well. And it's this kind of, if I'd told him, right now you're going to open a book and learn Japanese, he would have been like, no, I don't want to. It's like, you have to understand Japanese to play this game. Oh, okay, I'll do that. So it's a kind of coercion, I think.
What do you like most about your job?
Oh, so many things. I love my job. I like to say I found my forever job. I've done a lot of jobs where it just paid the rent, and that was it. I didn't necessarily enjoy them. This job I love. I love getting to meet people, the networking, making new friends, um, doing something that I genuinely love. Like, I love games. It's been my life forever. To have that experience and be able to, oh no, I've got to play a game. Oh dear. So, I'm judging the Indie Cup for the Rising Star Awards. So I have to play like 10 games. It's a really good job. I enjoy it so much. And meeting people, being able to create these friendships, create these bonds is so worthwhile. And a lot of that comes from the travel. As I said, in Bratislava, I made some of the best friends that I have from Ukraine that I never would have met before if we hadn't gone to that conference. And I like to think of games industry, our friend group is like a big family. Everyone understands everyone. We're all slightly weird. We're all slightly kooky. We're all geeks. We're all nerds. And it's just a really safe, friendly space to be in. What about yourself?
Shared interests.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Maybe I will be on next game gathering.
I think you should go. I think you should definitely. The game gathering in Bratislava is going to be an amazing event. I'm hoping to attend to see my friends, to share stories, listen to the amazing songs that were being sung. They were just beautiful. And also next year we are definitely hoping to be in Kyiv to be on site to celebrate you guys as well. And we hope that you're all able to take part in the Global Game Jam next year, at the end of January next year, and make it the biggest and the best yet. The stuff that's come out of Ukraine has just been amazing. For myself personally, I would like to give a shout out to Frogwares, who are an amazing Ukrainian studio. They remastered Sherlock Holmes: The Awakened in order to have work for their company. They also were sponsors and supporters and judges of Ukrainian Game Jam for Global Game Jam. So a big shout out to Viola, Nika, and the rest of the team at Frogwares, because you're amazing, and I love your games as well. So
Thank you. Thank you for the speech and dialogue. And for me, it was a pleasure to meet you.
it was an absolute honor. Thank you so much for having me, and we will see you in person next year, and hopefully in Bratislava before then.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.